If you like to talk about the hypocrisy of Jehovah's Witnesses and Watchtower, this is the place for you. Please subscribe and turn on notifications, and with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so the premise for this video is I want people to look at things that we all have seen and we all know about, because we know this video was absolutely viral and just about every ex-member of Jehovah's Witnesses remembers the weird poison bread speech, which was so bizarre and strange. Now, I want you guys to kind of pause for a second, and I want you to think about the organization, and I want you to analyze this video. But before you analyze it, before I watch it, I'm only going to play parts of it, and I want to talk about it. And the way I want you to look at this is I want you guys to think about the organization. Now, this video was written, scripted, and directed by the organization. Every mannerism, every joke, every facial expression is planned, just like a movie. There are no accidents with this broadcast. And I want people to remember that a lot of people make the misinterpretation that Jehovah's Witnesses organization, that the governing body run it, and that the governing body are a bunch of goofballs, and this is some kind of, poor religion, just barely on the fringes, and they live by poverty, and that they're serving Jehovah, and that's the only purpose is to spread the good news. I know, and you know, that that's BS. Watchtower is one of the wealthiest religious groups on the planet. Watchtower has its financial hands in companies that make weapons of war for the United States of America. We know this, we've seen this, this has been known for a very long time. Watchtower has some of the highest amounts of mansions. Watchtower has some of the largest properties. Watchtower is one of the largest real estate companies in the world. They are one of the most, when it comes to power, and it comes to actual economic power, they are one of the most powerful organizations on the planet through their umbrella companies, through all their assets, and all their accounts that would be in the background and stuff, and their lobby groups. So when we think about that, and we think about the organization, and we look at them for what they are and not the selling point that they give to the ignorant masses. And when I say the ignorant masses, I'm talking about the people that they go door to door, knock on the door, and they try to sell this particular product, which is Watchtower, and how meek they are and how good and wonderful they are. And we know they're not. And we know that they're compulsive liars. And we've seen that through their literature and their belief systems and their false prophecies. So, with that kind of analyzation, I want you to re-watch this video and then tell me if you catch these things.
Ephesians 4:30 has been selected as the theme text from our comments this month. Ephesians 4:30 says, "Also do not be grieving God's Holy Spirit, with which you've been sealed for a day of releasing by ransom." Well, what does it mean to be grieving God's Holy Spirit? Before we discuss that, let's make clear what grieving the Spirit is not. Grieving the Holy Spirit is not the same as blasphemy against the Spirit. For that matter, grieving the Spirit is not necessarily the same as a serious or gross sin. Well, what's the difference between these three expressions? Mark 3:29 mentions blasphemy against God's Holy Spirit. Notice what it says about this action. "But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit has no forgiveness forever, but is guilty of everlasting sin." Blasphemy against the Spirit is said to be an everlasting sin.
So there's a couple things to point out. So first off, they're saying that a gross sin Now, what's the thing about the word gross? So gross means something is disgusting by the public. So this gross sin you can do, and that's okay. God can forgive that. But if you doubt Watchtower, that's unforgivable. So they put themselves in a position where they're claiming that they are actually a God, and that they are representing God himself, and that they are as powerful as God's messenger, the Holy Spirit. Did you guys catch that? They are saying that they are equal to God's Spirit. The other really, really important thing is a gross sin. Now, think about the organization. Think of their problems with children. Would that be considered a gross sin? Absolutely. The general public thinks it's disgusting. They're telling you that when you hear this stuff about them doing gross sins, like what they do to children, it's okay because Jehovah is going to look past that because Jehovah told them. So they're telling you that Jehovah said, don't worry about this. How disgusting is that?
So it is that our publications often use the term blasphemy against the Spirit and sinning against the Spirit interchangeably. Matthew 12:31 and 32 further expands on our understanding of blasphemy or sinning against the Holy Spirit. This kind of sin is termed in these verses as unforgivable sin. Very serious indeed. Matthew 12:31 and 32 says, "For this reason I say to you, every sort of sin and blasphemy will be forgiven men, but the blasphemy against the Spirit will not be forgiven. For example, whoever speaks a word against the Son of Man, that's Jesus, it will be forgiven him. But whoever speaks against the Holy Spirit, it will not be forgiven him. No, not in this system of things, nor in that to come." A most tragic prospect for any who sin against the Holy Spirit. Well, what kind of sin might that be? Well, first of all, you notice in verse 31, Jesus said, every sort of sin will be forgiven. Even very serious, gross sin can be forgiven.
So I hope you guys are paying very close attention to what he's saying. Once again, he's saying that he can do terrible things, you can do terrible things, the organization can do terrible things to people and children, and it's all forgiven. But if you talk against Watchtower, that can't be forgiven. They are placing themselves in a pedestal that they are gods. I hope you guys are understanding that. I hope that you understand. And what can you not do? You are not allowed to mock God. It's an unforgivable sin, right? That's what he's basically saying. You cannot mock the Holy Spirit. You will never be forgiven for that. They're putting themselves in the same position. But yet they're saying that the sinful nature and gross sins of abuse of children, the misuse of children, stealing from old people, everything, the lie they've done is okay as long as you don't question them because they become a God figure. I mean, this is what they're saying. This is what they're demanding. There are three types of sins. There are sins, gross sins, and unforgivable sins. The only unforgivable sin is to mock God's Holy Spirit. What is Watchtower saying? You can't do what to them? If God said that's the only rule, and that rule applies only to God, then why is Watchtower using God's only rule? Why are they able to use this rule for a paper publishing company? I mean, let's be honest with what they are. They are, at the root, a paper publishing company.
So if you've sinned in the past in a serious way, you're not at all a lost cause. You see, Jehovah is merciful. If we sin and we're truly repentant, even if we've been severely disciplined, we can be forgiven. For the verse said, every sort of sin will be forgiven. In fact, did you notice Jesus' further statement? He said that a person who speaks against Jesus has the possibility of being forgiven, whereas one that blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven forever. Now, why is that? The reason is that Holy Spirit has God as its very source. The Holy Spirit is expressive of God's own personality. So saying things against or denying the Holy Spirit is the same as speaking against Jehovah himself.
So remember I told you that they put things and say things, and everything they do and everything they say is telling you something. There's nothing they ever do or say. They just told you that the Trinity is true. Did you catch that? They said the Trinity is true because of the rules that the Bible has for punishment against this unforgivable sin. And the reason for it is because God, the Trinity, and Jesus were one. Did you catch that? Listen to it again.
He said that a person who speaks against Jesus has the possibility of being forgiven, whereas one that blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven forever. Now, why is that? The reason is that Holy Spirit has God as its very source. The Holy Spirit is expressive of God's own personality. So saying things against or denying the Holy Spirit is the same as speaking against Jehovah himself. Now, Jesus was here referring to those who willfully, deliberately opposed an operation of God's Holy Spirit. Well, do we have an example of some who did just that?
So I want you to think about what you just heard, what they just said, and then what they're immediately saying now. They're saying that you can't mock the Holy Spirit because that is a personality and that traits are God. They said it, and then they go and they start talking about their divinity. Then they're going to go and talk about why you can't talk against God, and if you do talk against God, that you know that what you're doing is wrong and that it's unforgivable sin. They are telling the audience right there that they are unforgivable and that they are mocking God on purpose, and that not believing in the Trinity when they just told you the Trinity is true, they are telling you right then and there that they are lying to you and deceiving you, and they just openly told it to you. And then they go and tell you the punishment that they're going to receive based on their own belief systems. That they are going to mock God and say his Trinity, his form doesn't exist. They're going to say he died on a pole instead of or they're going to say he died on a pole rather than a stake. And then they're going to tell you that they themselves have the power and the authority and that you have to follow them. You worship them as a god. They just flat out told you everything. That they're a false deity. They are not real. They are lying to you. And then they gave you an example. Remember, I told you, you can't think of these people as stupid. They're not stupid. They know what they're doing. They know what they're saying, and they understand humans' ability to reason. They also know that people are gullible, and they are doing this on purpose. They have a belief system. They have to tell you when they're lying. They have to put it in there, and if you're too ignorant to see that they're telling you point blank that they are lying, and you still believe them, it is your fault. And the karma of this act against God isn't their fault. And that negative karma is your fault now. Because they told you and you willingly became sinful with them. Unforgivable sin. They are not dumb. They are brilliant.
They blasphemed or sinned against the Holy Spirit. Look back in the context of Jesus' statement in Matthew chapter 12. Jesus had used the power of the Holy Spirit to cure a man. Notice how the Jewish religious leaders spoke against that obvious, miraculous use of Holy Spirit. Matthew 12:22 first. It says, "Then they brought him, a demon-possessed man who was blind and speechless, and he cured him so that the speechless man could speak and see. That was indisputable evidence of the operation of Jehovah's Holy Spirit. The crowds recognized that. The Pharisees did not. Well, let's read verses 23 and 24. Well, all the crowds were astounded and began to say, "May this not perhaps be the son of David?" At hearing this, the Pharisees said, "This fellow does not expel the demons except by means of Beelzebub, the ruler of the demons." Instead of acknowledging the power of Jehovah's Holy Spirit, many Pharisees spoke against it, attributing the healing of the man to Satan, the devil himself.
Okay, so I just want to speak to you guys, and this is I've done this over and over again with this particular part, trying to explain this, and it's really hard, and I'm trying to figure out a way I can say this in a way that's palatable for you guys. Okay. They just told you that one of the ways that you can recognize God's abilities is by casting out demons. And you can tell the people who worship Satan, who are evil, because they will denounce the miracle of a demon being removed and then saying that that doesn't work. Okay? They're showing you in the Bible that this is an event that took place, and this is the story, and this is what the relevance is. An evil corporation is going to tell you that they're not really casting out demons, that they're using demons in order to remove demons. I want you to think about the cross, and I want you to think about exorcism. That's it. If exorcism actually works, then when Jehovah's Witnesses tell you that exorcism doesn't work and the cross is not an effective tool against evil, they have just told you that they are the Pharisees. They are telling you that they are the Pharisees by the very definition that they just gave you. Now, these are the things that you don't really pick up on until you pay attention to pattern recognition. When you start recognizing patterns, you'll start paying attention to what Jehovah's Witnesses are actually saying. So there are the words that they say, and then there are the phrases that they're actually telling you, because every single one of these speeches coming from them is designed to tell you something or admit to something and prove to you that they're deceiving you, and you choosing to stay there shows your ignorance or the fact that you don't care and that you just don't. You're more concerned about your position with this false God than you are with reality. That is what these people are telling you. Now, I told you they're smart. I told you that they're going to tell you things and tell you when they're lying, and that it's up to you to pay attention. Because remember, they always want to talk about how good it is for you to be ignorant and dumb and no education. Why? Because dumb and ignorant people won't pick up on things. They don't learn certain social cues. They don't know pattern recognition. Oh, I can't talk. Pattern recognition. Yeah, I don't know why I can't say that. I'm having a hard time with my nose being stuffed up. But anyways, so recognizing patterns, they're not able to recognize certain patterns. Jehovah's Witnesses are telling you the pattern, what to recognize, how to know divinity when you see it, and then what type of people are denying it. And then they're doing it right in your face. Now think about that. I want you to be honest in the comments. When you're rewatching this, and now that I've told you and pointed this out, how many of you ever recognize this?
Avoid grieving God's Spirit, avoiding hurtful gossip, cooperating with the elders, not forming cliques in the congregation. These are all ways that we demonstrate that we follow the Spirit's lead. Ephesians 4:30 again. It says, "Also do not be grieving God's Holy Spirit, with which you've been sealed for a day of releasing by ransom." Well, let's review. We invite our waiters to join us.
Okay, so recognizing patterns. Remember, everything they do is scripted, Everything they say, all the mannerisms, everything is planned. They have a purpose. They have a thought. They're telling you something. I want you to pay very close attention to this weird next part where they're going to be talking about the bread, and they're using these different symbolisms of poison, and they're going to give you these references. Now, I'll play it, and then we're going to talk about it. But please use those reasoning skills that you've developed and that we've talked about, and think very, very carefully. If they are what I claim they are, they're going to tell you, and when they tell you, it'll be subtle. But can you catch it? And if you do catch it, let me know.
They have some props they're going to set up for us. And this is Brett Cox, Michael Banks. And in case you're wondering, they're not real Bethel waiters. Instead, they both work as secretaries in the office of the teaching committee. But we've impressed them into service today. Thank you, Brett and Michael. And in case you were thinking it, this is not a Watchtower cooking show. Instead, we prepared a visual review of the material we just discussed about grieving God's Holy Spirit. We have 3 beautiful loaves of bread here. This is garlic powder. This is basic old mud. This represents poison. And we have a trash can. Now, the bread represents the relationship that 3 people have with Jehovah. 1 Samuel 16:7 says that mere man sees what appears to the eyes, but Jehovah sees into the heart. Yes, Jehovah sees what we are on the inside.
Did you notice when he said Jehovah sees our heart, the inside of our heart? Did you notice that his voice began to tremble out of absolute fear when he did this? Did you catch that? I didn't catch this the first time.
And he knows exactly the status of our relationship with him. Well, as you can see, all 3 loaves are pure, clean, and undefiled in any way. This represents the clean relationship Adam originally had with Jehovah and that all humans were intended to enjoy. The sin of Adam tainted.
So it's really interesting, the physical representation. So the bread is mankind, right? Adam and Eve. And they're putting the garlic on there. The garlic is considered an enhancement. So they're telling you that garlic bread, there's garlic bread. Everyone knows that garlic bread is a step up between plain normal bread. It tastes better. It's better for you. Why on earth are they showing you that something that you're going to immediately know is tasty, better for you, and they're showing it to you as a representation, is sin? They're telling you that sin is better for you and delicious. That's what they're really telling you. The garlic bread is delicious.
Our pure relationship with Jehovah. The garlic powder represents inherited sin and imperfection that was passed on to all humans. Now, the garlic powder is not poison. The bread is still edible, but it's no longer pure. In a similar way, though we're tainted with sin, Jehovah does not discard imperfect humans. He still allows us to have a relationship with him based on Jesus' sacrifice. Well, let's review our material. First, sinning against the Spirit. What I'm holding represents poison. And when the Pharisees denied an outright manifestation of the Holy Spirit, it was as if they rejected Jehovah himself. Their actions were like pouring poison on the bread. It totally saturates the bread. He said that a person who speaks against Jesus has the possibility of being forgiven, whereas one that blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven forever. Now, why is that? The reason is that Holy Spirit has God as its very source. The Holy Spirit is expressive of God's own personality. So saying things against or denying the Holy Spirit is the same as speaking against Jehovah himself. This bread is ruined. When Jehovah determines that someone has sinned against the Spirit, there's no forgiveness possible. That one's relationship with Jehovah has been forever ruined. Jehovah discards the person like a piece of garbage, just like Judas, the son of destruction. Well, second, let's review what serious or gross sin generally refers to. If we dropped the bread into the mud, it becomes soiled. Serious sin is when we break one of Jehovah's moral laws, like the sins listed at 1 Corinthians 6:10. Serious sin muddies or soils our relationship with Jehovah. Well, our first reaction might be, this bread is ruined too, and we reach for the trash can again. Well, it's true that serious sin has sullied our relationship with Jehovah, but is serious sin the same as sinning against the Spirit, fit only for the trash can? No.
So let's think about what this member is telling you. He's telling you that their goal is to remove you and put you into a position where you are in unforgivable sin. Being disgusting, being detestable, you can choose to turn around and do what is right. And even though you're tainted with watchtowers, lies, perversion, you could go live a good life. You could turn around and leave the organization, and you could be forgiven, and you could run a good life. They are telling you that there is an option that you can leave this organization and that you will have a better life. They are literally telling you to your face that they are deceiving you, they're lying to you, they're a poison, and they will bring you down with them. That's why the man's voice breaks. Because remember, they believe this stuff. This religious belief system that the organization has, that the occult has, they believe God and Satan are in a battle, and they know that when they cross a certain line, that God will punish them. So when the leader of the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, one of their mouthpieces, is making a declaration of war to the Christian God, Jesus, he gets very scared because he is putting himself in a position that he knows that he's going to have something happen. That's why his voice was cracking when he said that statement earlier. Everything they do has a purpose, folks. Everything.
You see, a person can be repentant over a serious sin. He ceases the wrong conduct, prays for forgiveness, talks to the elders, and follows Jehovah's procedure to become clean again. In effect, the mud is cut away. And to Jehovah, that serious sin of the past is forever gone. He doesn't think about it again. What's left? Unsoiled garlic bread. We still have an imperfection, we're tainted with that, but we again have a good relationship with Jehovah. Now third, how can we illustrate grieving the Spirit? You remember, grieving the Spirit is drifting away from the lead of the Spirit. You recall Ephesians 4:25 through 29 listed such things as deceitfulness, continued anger, inappropriate speech. So grieving the Spirit is not like the poison of sinning against the Spirit, and it's not necessarily like the mud of serious sin. Grieving the Spirit might be likened to putting on more layers of garlic powder. This does not immediately damage our relationship with Jehovah, but if we continue to veer away from the leading of God's Spirit, we sadden him. We grieve the Spirit. So what should we do? Stop our inappropriate behavior and pray for forgiveness. And we must shake off any remnants of such traits from our person. Though we're still imperfect, we can again have a wholesome relationship with Jehovah.
I know you guys are watching this, and I know some of you in the audience that are going to see this are going to feel very uncomfortable with this presentation. It's going to make you feel very strange. You're not going to like me pointing out those things, and it's going to make some of you angry who are still involved in this group. But I want you to think about this for a second. When you're watching that, when I presented that feeling of uneasiness that came to you, that made you so uncomfortable and angry of what I had said, that little voice in you is telling you something's not right. I don't like this. We're scared. That's the little voice in you called reason. And that little voice you have hidden for so long that you have a hard time recognizing it or knowing what its purpose is. That feeling that was given to you is a warning mechanism to get you away from things that are dangerous. When you get that feeling from people, a group, an organization, a company, you should pay attention to it, because it's warning you that something is not right and something might be dangerous to you. These people have the right to have the belief system that they want and that they do and they choose. And I'm not arguing that they shouldn't. What I'm telling you is when they are trying to tell you that they are the way, the truth, they know they're not. They know for a fact that they're deceiving you. They know for a fact that they're misleading you. And they know for a fact they're taking advantage of you. And they know for a fact that the things that they're saying are not true. The reason they tell you things and then show you that they're lying and then go right back to their lie is because they have a belief system that they have to tell you the truth. And if you choose not to pay attention when they tell you the truth, they believe the karma will not fall on them for what they have done. That is their true belief system. If you want to know why you have new light, if you want to know why they say things that don't make sense, and then they change their doctrine a year later or 2 years later, that's why. They are telling you, they are screaming in your face, we're lying to you, and you're being deceived, and you're falling for it. I hope that you take the warning serious, and I hope that you do something about it. And when I say do something about it, I mean better yourself. Because think about all those things that you just heard. Think about all the things that I just showed you. There is nobody going to fix this problem but you. You can't just sit there and think that you're just going to pray about it and it's going to fix itself and everything's happy doodle. That's not how reality works. You've got to put the hard work in, and you have to fix these issues yourself. You can't help other people until you help yourself. And for those of you out there who are struggling right now and you know who you are, the number one thing you can do that Watchtower tells you not to do is take care of yourself first, then worry about other people. Because if you're broken, you're not going to be able to help someone else. I hope you guys understand what I'm telling you, and this is a special message for a certain somebody. You know who you are. I'm not going to say your name because you're a friend of mine and I'm concerned about you, but you're hearing this. I am talking to you. This is for you. I want you to get help.